Houston Real Estate Radio.
Welcome back. You're listening to Houston Real Estate Radio, and I'm your host, Shannon Register, talking with you about real estate information that you can use on your next real estate transaction, or if you're getting ready to do a real estate transaction. Today's guest is Jeannie Brown, and she's been talking to us about some home staging tips and giving us some great advice for sellers who are thinking about selling. And we were talking about what a great time of year it is for buyers to go out and start visiting open houses. We've had some great weather. It's a great time to buy while interest rates are still low, and there's a lot of inventory out there still to choose from. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer here on the show, you can call us anytime at 281-882-8088, and you can listen for your answers on next Sunday's show. That's when we air the previous week's questions, and you could win a Lowe's gift card from our friends over at the Tomball Lowe's store. So I want to continue our conversation with Jeannie Brown. Her company is The Selling Stage in Texas, and she's a home stager. She's been giving us some home staging tips. So, Jeannie, I'd like for you to continue with just giving us some tips for sellers, some of the things that you find that most sellers need help with. What are some great tips and advice that you can give for our sellers?
Well, as I mentioned before, depersonalizing and getting another set of eyeballs on that house, somebody who's willing to tell the truth in a kind and loving way, of course. Even if that's just a neighbor to come over, that's at the very minimum. But I say that putting your home on the market is kind of like preparing for a date. A woman preparing for a date. There are things she does to herself to get ready for that date. She wouldn't just jump out of bed at 6 a.m. and say, here I am, ready for my date. I wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. We need to do certain things. We take a shower. We fix our hair. We put our makeup on. We put our clothes on. We do these things. We dress ourselves up for that special date. And a house is the same way. It's got to get its shower. It's got to put a little makeup on. It's got to put a few things away, tuck a few things away, and it's no different. Why would you take a picture of yourself or me or any woman, and some men, but women I see need the stuff more, the makeup and whatnot. Why would you take a picture when you're not ready?
Right. That's a good example.
I see pictures in the MLS that make me shudder.
Yeah, I've seen some bad ones myself.
So anyway, look at your home, look at your room, stand there and take a picture of your room at the doorway where the buyer sees it, and look at that and start seeing what pops out, because that's what's popping out to buyers, and they're going through. 86% of them are starting online, and they're going through click, 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 and
right.
they may have just passed the perfect house, perfect price, perfect zip code, perfect school because the pictures were bad.
And that's true. I mean, they start buying online. Even before they choose their realtor, we know that they start the buying process online.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what about paint? I know a lot of sellers have trouble. I've had them ask me, and it's difficult. They'll have a burgundy dining room, they'll have a green kitchen and a yellow living room, and and I'm saying go with neutral colors, and they're saying, well, what color? What should I do? Here's a paint palette. What should I do? What do you recommend for those sellers?
Well, you don't want your house looking like a hopscotch, of colors. A pink room here, a yellow room here, and I'm all for when you live there. Experiment with color. That's great. You're living there. But when you go into the selling stage, my company name, you need to be broad-based in your appeal. And again, neutral colors. There used to be that color called real estate beige. It was called that for a reason, real estate beige. A light taupe. There are a lot of different paint companies out there. Personally, I love Sherwin-Williams, and I love their very light taupes, and they've got a great array of colors to choose from, and just staying in the neutral categories with like I said, a very light taupe.
So some people think neutral and they think light colors. So their neutral may be a light seafoam green and a light blue and a light yellow. You're really more recommending taupes and creamies.
Yeah, I just find those, it's just an easier background for a buyer to be able to imagine their things on. A buyer may come in with some very specific likes. They may love the blue on this wall. They may love pink. They may love green. But let them choose their own colors when they go to repaint. But start with a neutral, tan, beige,
So you definitely want all your crown molding, all your baseboards to stand out from the paint.
Right.
You don't want white walls and white trim.
No, white is very stark. It's very harsh, and it actually is. It's just too much. It's too stark. Now there are exceptions for that. There are sea coast homes. There are exceptions with white.
But in general, we're talking about just your general.
Yes, I like to see
homes.
the white molding and the white window trims and things pop out, and tans do that.
And we were talking about earlier that there are a lot of homes that don't even need window treatments because they've got these white framed windows that stand out from the paint and they look good. They don't necessarily need window treatments.
Right.
So do you recommend that home sellers leave window treatments, take them off, or does it just depend on the house?
If they're dated, and they're, the 80s are calling and wanting their, little blue ducks back, take them down. Put something up that's neutral. I love working with, and this is a really inexpensive solution, just the very simple panels that you can buy at any home store.
Target,
Walmart, just the panels are $10, $12, and you can just kind of loosely put those up. Very simple shears. And they give a nice finish without totally grabbing your attention or blocking the light or blocking the view.
What are the biggest things that the biggest mistakes that you see home sellers making when you talked about looking through pictures in the MLS? What are the big mistakes that you're seeing that home sellers are making that they really need to be aware of?
Too many personal products, bathrooms particularly. Too many photos around the house. When we walk into, say, a bathroom, we don't want to see their
toothbrushes
and hairbrushes. And you open the shower, and buyers open all the drawers and cupboards. So you need to be aware of that as a seller. Your stuff is being looked at, and so when we open the shower door and see the wet drips from somebody's body in there, and the scrubbers and the shavers, and the 14 shampoos and conditioners that women use, and the stuff in there. It's like, that's a turnoff.
Yeah.
And ultimately, a buyer leaves with a balance of ticks in the positive direction or the negative direction. And so when they're walking through a room and it's a tick negative, too much stuff, too much this, whatever, they walk out with a negative overall feeling. And a staged home, they walk out thinking, wow, I could live here. I could do this. They're mentally moving in, and they're more positive ticks. So decluttering, clean, we say the 3 C's, the top 3 C's: clean, clutter-free, and color.
And a lot of people will declutter and take down their personal stuff, and then you walk in and you still see a lot of that stuff. So,
I do.
I guess they're not doing enough of it, or they don't know what to do. So they really need, like you said, a third set of eyes.
Right.
Kind
it's
of
hard to be objective.
Yeah.
If I were to sell my house tomorrow, I would have another stager come into my house because I've stopped smelling my own house. Even though I think it's fine, it's turned off in my own brain. I can't smell my environment. Goes back to caveman days when we had to be hypersensitive to what was coming into our cave, but we learned to turn ourselves off. I would have somebody else come in and tell me what to do with their eyes because I've just stopped seeing my own things.
Let me ask you about something, kind of switching gears a little bit here. There are a lot of new homes that have, in the living room, they'll have about 3 walls because they're very open rooms, open to the kitchen, or open to the breakfast area. So one wall of that will have windows. Another wall may have half of it, maybe a bookcase, and then another wall's got the fireplace. How are you recommending that people stage these rooms? I mean, it's really hard. You can't just put a couch on that wall and a couch on this wall. It doesn't work that way anymore, and a lot of people are having to put their flat screen TVs over the fireplace. I mean, is that good? What are you recommending to those sellers when they have those difficult living rooms?
Yeah, that's something that can be very difficult. And so I like to, and that's what we call floating a sofa in the middle of the room. We float the sofa without anything behind it. So how do we position that? We stand at the doorway and see, what is the focal point of the room? What is the purpose of the room? Is it to watch a fireplace? Is it to see a view? Is it to watch a TV? But I don't always go with those. I have to be able to have that room make sense to the buyer and invite them in, pull them in. And I just staged a house on Monday, as a matter of fact, and I put a sofa just away from where the TV would be, the entertainment center would be on that wall, because it was more inviting. It's not going to be about the TV. It's about the room, the space in
Sure.
the room. So, but without those walls, sometimes we have to angle things and float them into the middle of the room.
Okay. Yeah, I think there are a lot of sellers who need help with that. Just because of the construction of the home and having these angled walls, it can be a little bit difficult, a little bit tricky trying to figure out how to place everything. Real quick, what about some of the trends you're seeing right now that are beneficial for sellers? Any new things that you could recommend they use when staging?
Well, because of the TV things like HGTV, there's an awareness about home staging, which is great.
Yeah.
There are certain things that once, TV can kind of change and morph, and it's not exactly how it is in real life, but still there's an awareness. There are areas of the country that I see where I'm training in different cities where when a seller goes on the market, they ask their agent, who's your stager? It's expected that the agent will be providing a stager, and that's a very savvy seller. So an agent coming to them and saying, oh, I don't do staging, or, you're on your own with staging, or I don't recommend staging, big mistake.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Where should homeowners go if they want to look for a home stager? Obviously, they can call you, and you've given your company information, but just in general, say they're looking 2 years from now, what's a good place they can go?
There's a great directory on stagedhomes.com, STAGED homes.com. You can put in your zip code, and up pop 10, 15, 20 stagers in your area.
And those are stagers with designations.
Yes.
They are, you can count on them to be skilled and knowledgeable about what they're doing. It's not someone saying, hey, I'm a home stager. They actually are accredited.
Correct. They didn't wake up that morning and decide to become a home stager, which they may be very good. But yes, they've been through the course, and that's also the course that I teach as well. But yeah, and I say hire who you're comfortable with. Hire who you get along well with and communicate well with.
I think the biggest thing for sellers is get the home staging done before the pictures and the video. I talk to a lot of home sellers, and they're like, well, let's just wait and see if it sells first. Go ahead and do it. Get it done before we take the pictures and do the video, because like you said, buyers look online first. That's where the buyers are.
And the investment in staging is always less than a price reduction.
Yeah, that's
so,
true.
Even if it's say
generally
$1,000
true.
or $2,000 to stage a home, what is a price reduction? We're talking $5,000 or tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, definitely can be.
And as soon as that home has made its impression on someone, that's what they're taking away. If they look back and say, oh, the home was reduced $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000, so what? Now they're starting to sound desperate, those sellers. So make that first impression, that saying, you only get one chance to make a first impression.
Yeah,
And,
that's true.
yeah.
Definitely true for sellers. True.
Price it right and stage it.
That's right. Thanks so much for joining us today, Jeannie. Some great information for sellers and even some tips for buyers on what to look for and to think about when they're purchasing a home. So some really great information and great tips for sellers, and we appreciate you coming on the show. And we're going to be right back after this commercial break here on Houston Real Estate Radio.